Hi, if you are new, welcome. If you've been with me for a little bit, this is going to be a little bit of a different video than what I've done previously. This is going to be a video on getting my very first bulk pallet. Hopefully this will be helpful for those that are maybe thinking about getting one and kind of want to see what the process is like, see if it's worth it to you. Maybe I can answer some of your questions. I'm definitely not a pro or super experienced, but my husband used to do this full-time. He used to work for someone else that did this full-time, and then he did it on his own maybe about 10 years ago. So I was involved in that process, but it was more his thing. But I do know what the process looks like. I know what some of the items look like when you receive them. And I kind of have an idea of what things are harder to get rid of along those lines. So I'm fairly comfortable diving into this. So I wanted to get a pallet on my own. My husband's super supportive of me doing so, but you know, he's got his own stuff to do. So I really wanted to get something that I could handle. So when you're looking for a pallet, you definitely want to be reading your manifests. You want to study them. It's rare, but sometimes there are mistakes on them. I was scrolling through and there was a high value pallet, and I'm looking through to see what some of the bigger ticket items were. And here there was a $2,100 desk. I was like, whoa, what does that look like? So I looked it up, and here it was a $219 desk. So when they were entering it, they accidentally entered an extra number that bumped that up. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. So make sure you're checking over your manifests. Another thing you might want to consider is what kind of items are you looking for, and also what size of items. Me personally, I do not want the big items. So when my husband did it before, we had a lot of like sporting good items. There was a basketball hoop, there was ping pong tables, we had a tanning bed, a paddleboard, you know, things that took up a lot of space. And we did have a storage unit for that. Right now, I plan on putting the items, I have a designated space over in the corner of my office, so I don't want a ping pong table. You know, I'm looking for those smaller items. So on BULQ.com, you can either get a case or a pallet. A case is going to be something a lot smaller in a box, and the shipping will be included. I'm not super interested in those. I want the pallets. I think there's more money to be made in the pallets if you're smart about it. So looking at the pallets, that also breaks down into two different categories. You can have a pallet that will have larger items all wrapped up on the pallet. I don't want that. Again, those are the bigger items that I just don't have the room for and I'm not interested in. I'm interested in the pallets that have one big box on it, and inside that big box is all your smaller items. The next thing, I'm looking at the MSRP value. Now, when you look at that number, you're never going to make that much off of it. You have to remember these are customer returns. More than likely, they were returned for a reason. Yes, it is the hope that, oh, maybe they just didn't like the color and they returned it and it's in mint condition. Yes, that happens, but no, that's not the norm. Expect to get items that will be absolutely worthless and you won't be able to resell. And you don't know until you get it. So you have to be careful. It is possible to lose money on these. Kind of be wise going into this. You know, don't risk everything. So I'm kind of looking for that, the large MSRP value versus, you know, the lowest amount that I can pay. So there's a big enough gap in there so that my resale value obviously is going to come way down from that MSRP. But hopefully that leaves me a big enough gap that as that comes down, it doesn't go below and I don't lose money. The next thing I'm looking for is how many items are in that pallet. So if you're looking at a pallet and there's only 8 items on there and you're paying several $100s for that, you're kind of putting all your eggs in one basket, and that makes me too nervous because you only have 8 items, 8 chances to have working items that you can resell. So if half of those are completely damaged and you can't sell them, you're down to 4 items left. So I don't like that. And on the flip side of that, if there's a pallet with 300 items, okay, you have a ton of items, but that means that the dollar amount of each of those items is going to be a lot less. And I don't like a whole lot of quantity of the cheaper items. So I want to be kind of right in the middle. So I was looking for a pallet with around maybe 50 items. And based on the MSRP, you know, I want the value of each of those items, the average, to be up a little more. When you get your $20, $30, even $40 items that you try to sell on eBay, once you equate in shipping and your fees, you're not really making that much. So I like to have as many items on that pallet as I can that are $50 and above. So more so in that $50 to $100 range, and a couple of really high-end items that I cross my fingers and hope that I can get some decent return on those. Another question I will ask myself as I'm looking over the manifests and I look at those bigger ticket items, I will ask myself, does it still have any value if it's damaged? You know, if there's a high-end stroller on there, okay, if I get it and the box is damaged and, you know, something's dinged up, is that still usable? And if the answer is yes, then I'm more than likely comfortable taking that risk. If it's something else that, okay, if this is damaged and absolutely cannot use it, you know, I might not want to take that risk just because it has a high-end value item in there. Some of the things I avoid, and those of you that have been doing this for a while, you might completely disagree with me, and that's okay. This is just my personal preference and from what I've seen before. I do not want to deal with any furniture, none whatsoever. You know, they come in boxes. Obviously, it was probably returned because it was damaged. And I don't want to have to deal with figuring out what was damaged, figuring out if all the pieces are there, and they're just big and bulky. I want nothing to do with furniture. When I see, if you see the word simple human on the manifest, those are fancy trash cans. And again, just due to personal experience, you know, we had some of those in, you know, from years ago, and every single one of them, they're returned because they're dented and it was pretty much worthless. So you might be going down your manifest and be like, ooh, a $200 trash can. Yeah, it's gotta be worth zero. And again, just personal experience. Maybe you got one that's perfect. Another thing I will avoid at all costs are the rugs. And that's something that will show up as a high-end value item on your manifest. To be like, oh my goodness, a $1,200 rug. Oh, they're a disaster. So we had a beautiful, super fancy rug that came in one of our pallets before. We could not get rid of this thing. We couldn't give it away. You know, in a yard sale, people want to give you like $20 for it. And that was after we tried Craigslist and tried listing it online, and just, it's just one of those things that people are just looking to take off your hands and not give you much money for. So I really don't see getting the value out of those, even if they're in perfect condition. Lamps are another thing because they can be super expensive and super fancy. And when I see a lamp on there, I'm just going to automatically assume, because they're fragile, it's probably broken. And even if it's not, that's another one of those things that I just don't see people paying top dollar for on like Facebook flea market. You know, you might be able to get more on eBay, but I know when I go on Facebook flea market, I'm looking for a deal. So I assume that other people are as well. Things I do kind of look out for on the manifests, I had mentioned strollers. And again, this was 10 years ago, but we had gotten an Orbit stroller in one of the pallets, and it sold for top dollar immediately. So those fancy high-end strollers, I mean, they were gold. I mean, if they're in decent condition, you know, those baby items, they're good items. On the flip side of that, we also have probably like 3 sets of baby gates right now, today, in our basement. You know, this is from 10 years ago on a pallet. And they were missing the hardware, you know, so we couldn't resell them. I think we might still try to go ahead and get the hardware for those to get them out of our basement or whatnot. But just be aware of that. It might be missing pieces. Bedding, I kind of have a question mark on bedding. I'm not sure a lot of that, some of that stuff is like super expensive, and that's one of those things, like, if it's damaged, does it still have value? Well, sure, it's bedding. I mean, unless it was like torched, you know, some might be dirty, the packages might have just been returned because the packaging was open. So that's one of those things I'm not too sure about, but I'm kind of interested to see if what the resale value on some of those higher end bedding sets are. And shoes, I personally go on eBay and I buy used shoes all the time just because I don't want to pay top dollar. So I wouldn't mind keeping an eye out for those, and I think you could get a decent amount on your return on those, again, as long as they're not destroyed. Even if someone had worn them for a day or two, I think you're still okay and would still get a decent amount back on those. So this is just kind of some of the things I look for as I'm skimming through the manifest, and I try to whittle down, okay, what is the pallet that I want? And I'm not getting a bunch, I'm only going to get one pallet. I'm going to see how it goes, and if I can make my money back and a little bit more, you know, I'll do it again and kind of grow from there. If I lose my money, game over. You know, I'm not looking to get into this full time. This is just another side hustle for me. Wanted to do it for fun and see what happens. But just remember on those manifests, just because it's a high-end item doesn't mean that it's going to sell. It might be super difficult to get rid of, to get your money back on. So don't just go by the numbers, you know, really study, you know, what is the item? Can I sell this? So I will walk you through and actually show you the palette that I chose and kind of give my reasoning as to why I chose that one, and then kind of go through the process. We'll show you when the palette arrives, kind of show you what the item conditions are, and then give you the update of how well we did. So this is the palette that I chose, and I'll just kind of walk you through my thinking in choosing this. I don't know if it was good idea, bad idea. Don't necessarily follow me, but we'll see how it goes, and I'll explain my reasoning for choosing this one. So I was looking for one that had an original retail of a higher value. So this one was $5,540. The price of the pallet was $264. And there's about 52 items on this, and it's a scratch and dent. So 3 pictures that I get are that one, and that shows the size of the box on the pallet there. So when you download the manifest, and reading over the manifests are a must. Okay, so this is the BULQ website. I do like to use their app, but this is here on the desktop. So I'm just going to go down through and just pick a random one to show you the manifests. So here's one, and if we scroll down, here it starts to show the items, and you can click here to download complete manifest. And this is what it looks like. So there's just a bunch of information. So what I did is, when I found one that I thought I was, you know, pretty serious about getting, here is the product name, and then it'll show you the original retail price. When it shows your average price per unit, you want to make sure that your shipping costs are included in that for the actual price of what you're paying. So this is what the manifest will look like. So what I did, I'll close that out there and open up. Okay, so I took the manifest for the palette that I wanted to purchase, and I took out all that extra information because I really just wanted to boil it down to these things. So looking down here, we have the brand name, the product name, what the retail value, and then on some of the manifests it'll actually have condition notes. So the reason that I picked this palette in particular, a lot of the items were above $50, so I liked that. And then our biggest ticket item here was a Garmin watch. It's a super fancy watch. So the retail value is $1,100. And I looked it up, and that is true. That wasn't a typo. That's how much the watch costs. And the condition notes say that it was scratched on the band. So that's when I asked myself the question for the high value items. If it's damaged, does it still hold value? And the answer to that would be yes. Even if it's scratched or used, those are still selling for a high price. Another high ticket item that was unique, you don't see a lot of these, there was a London Fog luggage bag, and it says the retail value is $260, and it doesn't have the box. I'm okay with that. So that was another item that I thought would be likely a good deal in there. And then just going through, so there's a couple of these water pick things, and if it's just damaged packaging and it's still new, I can resell it. If it's used, probably not something that I can resell. Here is a Sharper Image Deep Tissue Percussion Massager with case. Retail value is $299. I checked on eBay, and there is a lot of these being sold on there right now. So there'll be a bit of competition to unload that. So yeah, I just went down through this and was kind of looking up some on eBay to see, you know, will I be able to resell these? So I felt pretty confident in some of these bigger ticket items that I would do okay. And as you can see, there's a lot of other things listed on here. The seasonal Christmas items, we got a wreath here and garland. Not super excited about those because Christmas is now over, but we'll see what happens. There's a Rachel Ray. Here's a pair of shoes, and it says one of the boots is stained. So this is kind of the breakdown. So this is the information I had in front of me before I purchased the pallet. So I'm going to go ahead and show you then the pallet arriving, and we're going to go ahead and take the items out and take a look at some of them so you can see, okay, if this is what the manifest says, this is maybe what I can expect to find. And so up here, I paid $264 for the pallet. Shipping was $347.68. Payment processing $18.35. So I paid a total of $630.03. So in my mind, I always just kind of include shipping in my head. Like, okay, I'm paying $600 for this pallet. I don't have in my head, hey, I got this for only $264. I know that shipping is going to be a lot to get that pallet here. But all in, $630, which means my per unit cost was $12.11 per item. Down here I have the MSRP was $5,500, and here my paid amount $630.03. So I only paid 11.4% of the MSRP value. So I like that. I want to keep that number as low as possible. So somewhere between 10 and 20% is going to be my goal for the most part. Okay, so yesterday I received an email from BULQ saying that my pallet had shipped, and it included a tracking number. And so I checked that this morning, and it said that delivery is expected tomorrow. So today I did just receive a phone call from the shipping company that's going to be bringing it. Very nice lady. So when she called, she asked, she confirmed my address, and then she let me know that the pallet will be coming on a semi-truck. So she just wanted to confirm and asked if there was any low-hanging trees or wires or anything that a semi-truck would need to be made aware of. It was basically just wanted to make sure that they could get through and deliver it without much issue. So no trouble there. And I did mention to her that we, if she's able to put a note to the driver, we do live on a bit of a dead-end street. So when semi trucks make their way down here, sometimes they panic because they think they won't be able to turn around. So I just asked if she could make a note for the driver saying there is a turnaround at the end of the road that semi trucks are able to turn around in. So I'm super excited. I'm a little nervous, not gonna lie. My husband's not gonna be here tomorrow. This is all me, all up to me. So I'm hoping things go really, really smoothly. I'm hoping for a super nice driver, and that just things go as planned. I did mention to her, I don't know if the drivers always have a pallet jack on their truck or not. But it would be really bad if they showed up tomorrow and they didn't have one, because I don't have a loading dock that they're going to be backing into. I don't even have a garage. We're going to be dropping this pallet on the sidewalk, and I'm going to have to piece everything out and bring it into the house. So I did ask just to make sure that they have a pallet jack. So she noted that the driver would make sure that they had one. So other than that, hopefully everything goes well. It comes tomorrow. We just get it off the truck and push it over to the sidewalk and then leave it, and I can go from there. Let's see. It's pallet day. Woo-hoo-hoo. Here is our first look inside. Go ahead and dig everything out. Now I'm sitting on my porch taking a break. I got everything out of the box, and lots of stuff's looking good so far. This Garmin here, that's the watch that I was super excited about. I'll have to take a closer look at that. And this fancy bag there so far looks pretty good. I think I can get a decent return on that. So I'm gonna get everything inside, and I'll look over the manifest and kind of take attendance of the items and see if we have everything and go from there. Okay, got everything upstairs semi-organized into this corner. So I pulled out some of the items here onto the table that I have looked over. So I'm just going to kind of give you an idea of maybe what you can expect as far as condition of items, and also maybe compare it to the manifest to see how well things match up. So I'll start with this heater here. I pulled this out and I was like, oh, this is the cutest little fireplace thing. So this was not in its original box. The manifest says it's about $100 item, and it said on the manifest damaged. So I pulled it out of the box, looking it over. There's no damage to this unit whatsoever. So I plugged it in, worked perfectly. But then as I'm looking at it closer, I pull out the manual here and I'm like, oh, this thing's supposed to have legs. And the heating element is on the bottom, so you can't have that just like setting flat on the floor. So it was missing the legs, and also there's a remote control that's supposed to go with it, which is still fully functions without the remote control, because there's buttons there that work. So I did email the company this morning. It says here, questions, problems, missing parts, so I can contact the company. Now, obviously, I'm not the original buyer, so I can't say, hey, I was missing parts. Can you send them to me? I sent them an email saying, do you have these parts, and can I buy them from you? So I'll have to look to see what the cost is. Hopefully they have a set of legs they can send me, and if not, then we might be out of luck on that one. This here is a good example. So this arrived like this, and I'm like, what the heck is this? Turns out it is the world's ugliest lamp. I will insert a picture of what it's supposed to look like. But I took it out and wasn't even sure like how it's supposed to go together or whatnot. But yeah, so this lot had 5 water picks, 5 different ones, and they varied in prices, but altogether the MSRP value of all of these was a little over $600. On the manifest, some of them say damaged box, or used. I did not open any of these yet. And actually, when I was initially looking at the manifest, I wasn't even really counting these, because if they are all used, I can't sell them used. I might just sell the whole lot for parts or whatnot. You know, if I'm lucky, maybe I open it up and it is still brand new, just the box is a little dinged up. But yeah, so we got a whole bunch of those. So here is Tempur-Pedic pillow, and it said the value was $100. So it was still in the box. The plastic is still there, and it said on the manifest that it was dirty. So it was in fact opened, and there is a little bit of a dirt spot there. But for a $100 pillow, I was thinking I might just clean it up and keep this one for myself, because I've been looking for a new pillow. Okay, so there was another pillow here, wasn't in any kind of packaging or anything, but it does seem to be a brand name, Tommy Bahama, and it does seem to be from a set. So I might be able to get a couple dollars out of it. This here is another pillow. It was in a plastic bag, and it said on the manifest a value of like $17, and it said that it was used. So this looks to be in brand new condition, and it still had the tags on it. And the tags say that it was from Bed Bath & Beyond for $34.95. So that's nice. I'll definitely be able to get a couple dollars out of that. When I was looking at the manifest, there was a wallet listed on there for a value of $100. And I'm like, that is one fancy wallet. So I got this and I'm like, that is not one fancy wallet. It does come in the cute little bag here. So here was British Belt Company. And I take it out. I'm like, oh, maybe the material is like great. And it is a nice little piece here, but it's just, you know, one of these. And it has the name on there. French calfskin made in England. So maybe there's some value to that. But I went online and they're for sale for like $35. So I'm like, okay. There was this Rachel Ray 8-piece cook set. So I figured, okay, maybe it's missing a piece, you know, we'll see. So I opened it up and everything is still, I could not believe everything is still in the plastic. I did not take all the pieces out yet to really thoroughly check, you know, maybe there's a scratch on one of them. All the pieces are there. But if somebody returned it, it's either they just decided they didn't want it and it's still in perfect condition, or there might be a scratch somewhere. But either way, I can still totally sell this. And on the manifest, yeah, so on the manifest it said $82.50, and it said damaged box. Selling on Amazon, it's listed for $120, so that's actually higher than what the manifest had said. So this luggage bag here, London Fog bag, I did notice this on the manifest before I made the purchase, and I was like, oh, this should be an easy sell. And the manifest said there was no box. So I was like, okay, great. A return item, there's no box, but it still seems to be like a high ticket item. So the manifest had it listed at $260. They're listed on Amazon right now for $150. So lower on that, but still a great item. I was looking this over, and I thought it was brand new, because it still had like that little tag there that make you think it's brand new. One of the bottom wheels, like it's still in perfect condition, but it looks like it might have been, you know, wheeled on the ground just a tiny bit. But then, so I'm opening up all the pockets just to double check it over. And as I opened this part, I was like, bonus gifts. So somebody definitely purchased this, definitely took it on a trip with them, left their phone charger in it, and their airport Jamaican coffee, and then returned the bag. But that's okay. It's still in great condition, so I was able to list that pretty quickly. And then this here, this is the Garmin watch. This item here was the whole reason that I picked this particular pallet. It on the manifest it was an $1,100 watch, which is the case, and it said on the manifest that there was a scratch on the band. So this was in fact a brand new watch. There was a scratch on the band, but I listed it online for 7-day auction. Started the bids at $650, and in less than 24 hours I already have a bid on it and like 10 people watching. So this item alone is going to pay for the entire pallet. Does that always happen? No, it does not. So please don't watch this video and be like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. I gotta get a bunch of pallets. That's not always the case. You know, I was very careful about picking my pallets and studying and seeing what was on it. But this turned out to be a huge, huge score. Okay, and here I'm just back to the pile then of all the other things. I want to move the bag back over there, but there was a bedding set there. It looks in decent condition. I got 2 little rugs. There's a bath mat set. I think this is a Christmas tree stand of some sort. There's a blanket under that. Some other items I need to check out the condition of. Back here was just, you can't tell in the boxes, but those are some more of the seasonal items, the Christmas decorations. There's another heater there. That's actually a bike seat for kids. Massaging weighted heating pad. A couple more Revlon items. There was a coffee grinder, deep tissue massager, toys. So I definitely still have my work to cut out for me as far as like going through items and getting things listed. But I do think that this pallet was a major win, as far as I'll definitely make my money back and a little bit more. And it doesn't look like the items are too much of a disaster so far. So thanks for watching. Hopefully I was able to help and maybe make you feel either more confident or maybe less confident, I don't know, about trying this out. So thanks for watching.